Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. As you can see, we're back with the Spectrum Plus 2A here. In the first part, it came out quite well. Now, there were some issues, namely this massive amount of damage here. So what I'm going to do now is file down these edges here as best as I can to try and even them out, because they're just jagged and they look a mess. And then I think I'm going to use either the Dremel or the hacksaw. I might go with the hacksaw to start with because it's more controllable, and I can go at a slower pace and stuff. And then use files just to smooth the edges down. And I'll probably do a similar thing over here. I'm not sure. It's a bit difficult to know what to do with this area. If it was a clean break here like that side is, a shorter one, it would be easier. But it comes right out over here. So I mean, I could extend it, cut it all the way down to the underneath of these pieces here, maybe. But then ultimately what I'm going to do, I'll show you, got a piece of salvaged plastic here from an old printer. It's the right sort of colour and texture, roughly. And we'll cut a piece out and stick it, on the inside there, right across there, and a couple of screws to mount it. And then the video, I think I'm going to stick, I've got the original modulator here. I did clean this up actually, I soaked it in some IPA, got rid of all the rust off there, but I might just pull the PCB out there, stick the mod in there, stick this back on the board to output the composite video, and then with this, I've got the stereo mod, which I'll show you later in this video, and I can mount a left and right phono, RCA, /RCA socket there with a switch, and at least that's utilising this space here for something practical. And it should look a lot better. That's the idea. So I have no idea how easy or hard this is going to be actually, but I'm just going to go over this with, let's say, some fine files here. Just try and smooth this down. We get rid of that little lip there, for example. That'll just snap off. There you go, it's gone. And just try and smooth them down so they're all sort of even height, and it looks a lot tidier. So hopefully you can see what I'm trying to achieve there. I'm just trying to smooth this down here initially. It's a lot better now. You can see, it's a lot more regular. There's perhaps still a little bit here that just needs filing off. It's a case, got to be careful, I don't want to scratch the top part here. It's a case of going around in little circles around that area, and then just occasionally going like that across that whole area there to try and level it down, because there's an extra plastic removed from here and less over here, so it's just trying to you can see that it's not too bad now. We've got a little bit of a dip there where, like I say, it was chipped off more when whoever broke it, but the idea is trying to smooth that down as much as possible. And then we might have a piece of this just overhanging here to fill that gap if we can. I just don't know how easy or practical that's going to be actually, because of the way, the shape of the plastic, because I want it to be inside the thing really, which means it's not going to overhang here unless we can cut even more out. The main thing is to just not have an irregular gap there, I think. From the front, what you don't want is that standing out too much, and if that edge was a bit smoother there now, a straight line, it perhaps wouldn't pull your eye as much. So you can see I've used the hacksaw there, and then I've used the cutters to just snip the pieces out. Now we already had a piece missing there, so what I want to do next is just smooth this edge. It's fairly straight already, that actually, it needs very little at all. This here just needs smoothing down a bit. Let's try and get that as straight as we possibly can. So this is always going to be a challenge. We're at the point of no return, so it looks a lot better over there. I can still smooth that down a little bit. And then you can see, I cut out here, again, it just needs smoothing down. I've hardly put any effort into filing that down there. Same here, we could just tidy that edge up a little bit. And the same on this side here. Now, the one thing I've just done using the Dremel is cut the slice out there that holded this support post onto the edge, just so that we've got enough clearance here to get this plastic on the inside. So there is going to be an overhang. It's not going to be a perfect solution, this, but when it's been cleaned up and the edges smoothed down, we should have a nice filler once it's all been cut down and stuff and the edges all smoothed down, for that massive hole. There's no other thing you could do really. I mean, you could cut this exactly, the exact profile here, but you're never going to get a straight, it's never going to be straight. There's always going to be a gap. You could maybe fill it with some black silicone or something, you know, the gaps there around the edges, you know, if you do that, if you were to try and cut this plastic to fit the contour here. But yeah, I mean, it's never going to be perfect. The whole idea really is just to fill the hole there with something that looks reasonably okay. Because as it was, it just looked a mess. I think it's going to look better no matter what I do. So it's still very dirty here. Got you know, bits of dust and stuff all over it, and it still needs a little bit of smoothing down. It's looking a lot better. So the next thing I'm going to do is just put a piece of paper over here and try, if I can, and trace the shape of this whole area here. You know, the actual cavity, so that I can cut this in such a way that I leave, you know, it's cut along here. It comes down there, inside here, up to the very edge, all the way around. You know, so obviously I need to cut this down because it's going to be way too big as it is at the moment. It's going to interfere with all of this stuff here. So I mean, it's not going to be perfect. You know, like I say, just to reiterate, this will not be a perfect solution, but it's just better than having this giant hole there. So I'll show you where we're up to here. Apologies if things are out of sequence with this video, you know. I'm doing different things in different order here, so the board, I may have covered that a few minutes earlier, you know, the caps and things, and the modular can. So the way this works, this is going to fit in here like this. I'm going to put a screw through there, screw through over here. I mean, I can still tidy up these edges and things yet. I haven't finished completely with that yet. And then, as you can see, if I just try and hold this in place, let's try and... So hopefully you can just about see how that's going to look. It's not too bad actually, you know. I mean, it does look a bit of a mess around the edges and things here, but at least there won't be a giant gaping hole on the back of the thing. That's the main thing. Bear in mind, I think the modulator is going to come out here, you know, the phono for the video, we'll have that there, back on the board. So yeah, it's, you know, it's not perfect, but I think that'll do. So I'm just going to drill a couple of holes. I'm going to use this actually, came from Marley. I do have a larger drill. I might need to use actually. I'm not sure if it's going to fit this drill bit, but we'll go with some black screws. I could always countersink them, I guess. Just not sure if this is going to fit in this bit. Might be a bit too big. So yeah, super glue did not hold at all, and I suspect epoxy would be the same on these. It won't hold. So like I said, got that in position. So there we go. I've just gone round the circumference there on both of those, and on that little side pillar there. So those should hold in place now. So the next thing I'm going to do with this now is I'm going to remove this mod and stick it on the underside of the board, clean up the two pins there. It makes sense, and then the chip is just replaceable. You know, you've not got this mess on the top here. Stick it on the underside. It makes sense. And then I'm going to recap it. There's just 1 microfarad and 100 microfarad caps on here. There's only like 6, I think, or 5 caps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 caps. So that's straightforward. And then the video mod we did up here, you know, the composite video out. I'm just going to gut this. I'm just going to desolder, you know, the connections around the edges. Then the PCB should come out. We'll remove this bridge, you know, this piece here, this compartment thing. Mount that inside here. Connect it up, you know, I'll connect up the connections there so that the, you know, the original wires are back in place there. You know, I'll obviously put the bottom piece on as well. I might just clean this shielding up on the top here and stick the original lid on there as well, just to make sure it's encapsulated, and then just maybe stick a sticker on there, say composite, something like that, and I think we should be done. So it's going to be just as easy to heat a single pin at a time. Just gradually pull the cap through once it's reached temperature, rather than use my desoldering station or the desolder pump. I can block the holes afterwards. Sometimes it's worth adding before you start a little bit of fresh solder and flux. Actually, it just makes it a bit easier. That's one side out. That's the other one. Just make sure you get the polarity around the right way, so the negative is on this side here, actually on the right hand side. Yeah, it's marked on there. Can you see that on the silk screen? We've got a plus on the left hand side there. So yeah, that one's 116 volt. And it's not absolutely required. Generally, I wouldn't recap something like this if I'm completely honest. I would do on the old 48K models because the caps on those are really crusty. And the caps are quite more important, I would say, actually, in places on the older boards, just because the way the supplies are generated on those boards, the caps are essential, really. On a board like this, they're just going to be decoupling and bypass caps and things. Yeah, they're not quite as important. I'm also amazed at the few caps that are on here. There's not very many. A lot of the smoothing seems to be handled by the power supply. So there's an argument there to say it might be an idea to add a couple of caps on here. I don't know. So we'll get our 100 microfarad cap. I'll just trim those legs down because they're a bit long to start with. Yeah, so the negatives on the left hand side there. There we go. Just hold that in place and solder it from the other side. Yeah, just make sure it's straight. It's not quite straight there. It just needs aligning a little bit. Yeah, that's not too bad. So, rinse, repeat. So that's all the caps replaced. I just need to clean up the solder points underneath. Then we'll deal with that little composite board. So there you go, I just need to clean off some of the flux. You can see we've got a nice firm ground strap here. So this whole thing cannot move. I mean, you can tap it up and down a little bit there, but it can't move. It's secured really well by the wires here. So you've got VCC coming in here, the grounds coming off there. I think the other thing we're going to do is stick a 75 ohm resistor in parallel with the ground and the video out here, because it should have it, actually, just looking at the schematics for this, the way this little amplifier board's working, it should have a 75 ohm sort of termination resistor on there, and then the video out's coming out of the middle pin into the centre of our connector here. So it's not quite the same as a phono RCA, but it will fit, so that's okay. And then the signal obviously comes in here. That's the video signal coming in from outside the can. So I'll clean off the corrosion off the can. So wire brush initially, and then I'll perhaps use the fiberglass pen just to give it a final smooth down. But you can see, yeah, a lot of that's coming off. It's not too bad actually, it's just surface corrosion, but it just looked worse than it actually is. So there we go, got my resistor there. Let's just clip that top back on, and we're all done. We can reassemble it and give it a try. So ghosting fix relocated, and our T2000 chip cleaned up there, legs cleaned up, looks good as new. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is I might just file this area here to make it even, because you can see it's a bit thinner down this side and a bit wider up there. So I could smooth that down to make that a sort of regular size gap. And then I think the other thing I'm going to do is shave the edge there down with a file, because it's broken off, it's chipped, and I'll just make it at an angle, but it's nice and smooth and flat. Do the same over here, because again you can tell it's broken, but that's not too bad. I mean, it needs wipe, it needs some polish on it. You can see it looks a bit faded there because of the type of plastic I've put in there. It just needs polishing, really. It's not been polished since I fitted it. But the idea now is, beyond smoothing those few things down, is to fit these. Now I've got these gold plated RCA jacks for this. This is the stereo mod here from Bike Delight. The latest revision here is a bit simpler actually. It's used SMD components. When I last showed one of these on my channel, on my grey Spectrum Plus 2, it was a slightly larger board with regular through hole components. So yeah, he's optimised this a little bit, and you've still got the switch there to switch between the different stereo modes, but I think we'll just leave it. I could always put a switch on there later, but we do have the 3.5mm socket that it comes with. So I thought, well, why not have the best of both worlds? So I'll have all three of these. I've got the resistor flying out there. You provide some resistors, because some of the models, including this one, I think, need some additional resistors there to get the mixing just right, and to deal with problems with the output. Because I think the audio output on the Plus 2A, B and 3, maybe not all of them, but somewhere around that range, including this one, can have some issues with the audio output stage. And I think I saw on Mutant Caterpillar Games website, actually, the chap there did a small tutorial about what he worked out you needed to do to modify that. I'll perhaps post a link down below if I can find it. But I thought, why not put some of these gold-plated RCA phono connectors on here? So we'll have the left right, and then I'll stick the 3.5 mil stereo as well, and it should look pretty good once it's been cleaned up, polished, because like I say, it hasn't had a thorough polish or anything yet. This it should look pretty much good as new, I think. Just using these little needle files, and you can see, you know, I've almost dealt with this one already. This corner here is nearly smoothed down. Just got to be careful you don't slip off and scratch a bit of the plastic elsewhere, and it is time consuming. So it's still a bit dusty there, you know, and this edge is never going to be perfectly straight, but hopefully you can see what I'm going for there, you know, to make it look less like it's had an accident and more like it's had some sort of deliberate hole cut in it. You know, it's not perfectly straight there, but yeah, that's about as good as it's going to get, I think. So the next thing I'll do now is, you know, is get the 3 connectors in there, and now this is going to be challenging. What I'll probably end up doing is, you know, just reassemble it and then use a ruler or something and permanent ink and just put little dots where the centre of the holes need to go. I need to be careful with the 3.5 mil audio because I was going to put it over here, but you can see we've got that centre pillar there that's right in the middle, so we need to go up one side or the other, actually, that 3.5 mil socket. I might stick it on this side here, I'm not sure. Yeah, there's nothing on the inside there. Yeah, so I use that to pilot, that then to widen it, and now a larger one to widen it again. Just take your time, it only takes a few minutes, and then one of these should fit. You know, you can see it's not quite the right size there at the moment. Yeah, and I didn't need to use the file, I just went up to the next size screwdriver, and this is nice because it's got a variable slope there. So as you can see, that's almost the way through. I've just tested it, I'll show you. It's pretty tight, you know, you could almost screw that in there, so I think that's what I'll do. I'll leave it nice and tight there, you know, screw it in, stick the nut on the backside stuff, and then you know, we're done. I'll perhaps then put it in the case just to see exactly whether the marks here are still correct. You know, that's worth doing, just check as you go along. So that's the worst 2 down. Oh, those were painful. Did I say those are easy? They're not. It is if you just drill the right size hole, but as you can see, they fit fine. I've had the nuts on the back. What I did is I put the one in place, as I said, remounted it in the case, just in order that I could see exactly, you know, whether it was the right place. And it's a good job I did, because it needed a millimetre further up this way, actually. So, you know, that should be perfect now. So the final thing is to drill the hole here. I just need to make sure it's not too close there. That should be all right. It's yeah, I think maybe just move it a tiny bit across this side, just a little bit, and that should be okay about there. So there you go, I've got the connector on there. As you can see, it looks pretty sweet, and these will fit fine here. You know, they're going to be obviously screwed on for the inside there, so they can't move around. I mean, I could have put it further up this side, but actually I could always put a switch. I may do that later, maybe not in this video, just to switch between the stereo modes, because that board, as I showed, so it's got those jumpers there. Yeah, you can just connect a double throw switch there and you know, use that. So yeah, there's enough room up here to put that switch. You know, the post is sort of in this position here, so on the other side there, yeah, the switch could go. But I might not show in this video, it's not essential. I'm not that bothered, to be honest. I just want to get this up and running and get the stereo sound working. So the next thing to do is mount this board. Now, this just solders onto the AY chip there, as you can see here. So the other thing is, depending on the revision, you've got to put these extra 2 resistors. It says here for 2B, use 820 ohm resistors, and he's provided those in the kit here. And the 2A and plus 3 use 2K2. And you just stick them there onto, you know, that little PCB. But the other thing you need to do is separate the left and right channels there. Well, there's 3 channels, isn't there? Yeah, left, right, centre. So they're joined together, I think. Yeah, they're joined together on the PCB, on the 2A, 2B and plus 3. So it shows here, you know, underneath the board, you've got to cut these traces underneath the AY chip, I think. So we'll do that, and then there's a couple of wires you can see here. These 2 wires need to go to the ULA normally. Now on the grey plus 2A, you've got the 40-pin dip, so you know it shows those positions there. But in this case, we haven't got that. We've got the, you know, the gate array there for the ULA. So you've got to connect to the sides of these 2 resistors. There's one there and one there. The 2B slightly different, I think, but I think we're on 2A here. So I'll cut the traces and do those other mods. I've cut a trace here that joins this 4th pin here to that one, there's no short there, and then this one is joined there, so there's a cut just in between those two, and as you can hear we've got no join there to either of them, so those are all isolated from each other. So something else I would point out, these notes are not right here, the instructions. Where it says 2B, that's actually a 2A. Mine has got these caps here in this position, and it says 2A slash +3. It shows this here. Now I haven't got that resistor. I've got this one down here, so I suspect he meant to put 2A here, and that's 2B/3, because the +3 uses the same board as a 2B. So I'll let him know about that. I think he's got the 2A and the 2B around the wrong way there. Yeah, sorry it's hard to film this bit. What we need to do now, pre-tinned the 3 connections there, missed 2, and then that one. He has pre-tinned the connections on the legs here themselves on the back. So in theory, I should just be able to just heat one side, heat one pin, join it up, and then inspect to make sure it's straight, and do the one on the other side, and then just solder the remaining ones. So quite fiddly to solder that on, because you can join 2 of them up super easy. So yeah, make sure you use a bit of flux actually. It just helps the solder, stick to the pins and not join together and join 2 pins at once. So I believe you made the same mistake in the instructions there with the resistors. These are the 820 ohm resistors, because he was saying use the 2K2s. This is not the same board revision as a +3. A +2B is the same as a +3, as far as I understand. Because you've not got the additional chips and things. That's what makes the 2B the 2B. The board is from a +3. You can actually, I've seen people convert a +2B into a +3. And there we go. There's the final 2 wires. One to the cap down here, this side, the bottom, one to the right hand pin on this cap here. So the final thing I need to do now before I can reassemble this is join these the ground contacts up together here. Run a fly lead across to the ground on here, which is going to be the braid, wherever that is. Yeah, it's that pin down there, isn't it? And then take one of these to each of those. The red, maybe the red to the red and the white to the black. There we go. That concludes our wiring. So the ground's coming across to the 2, and then the red is going to the red, and the white wire is going to the black connector. So I can just reassemble it now. So again, it's very hard to film, but as you can see, I'm just using one of these Halfords. This one's marked as aluminium, and it's like a silver. I mean, it looks grey. If you look at it, it looks like a dark grey, but actually, when it dries, it's like silver. Now, the bottom of the P there, I've already touched up. Can you see that? The bottom was missing off that P. So it really is, a case of using the finest brush. I might need to touch that with a paper towel actually, because that's a bit thick there. I don't think you can see that. There's an absolute art to this. There really is. You've got to use a really, really fine brush. Yeah, you can see I've literally used the kitchen roll as the brush there. Can you see that? That's not too bad. So any little bits like that, I'll go over the end of the Z and the little bits of the X, and just 1 or 2, just touch up the very edges of some of the ones there, and the 2 here, because there's a bit missing off that 2, and it should be good as new. And as you can see, it's working there. There's an interesting sound glitch I get with this +2A actually, and I have the same thing with my grey one. Sorry, the video is not making a very good connection there actually. The ground's a bit off. But yeah, when it's nearer to the floor, I can get interference from the mains in this house. So I've raised it off a bit, but every now and again we might hear a little glitch, depending on whether it's high enough off the ground. I don't think it is. And I tested that before, lifted it a good foot off the ground, and the interference stopped. But the balance is quite good actually. And if I load, let's load a gain. Let's try operate. Let's do target renegade, because that makes use of 128K, YM sound, YM music, and you get the beeper there for the hits and things, the punching. So let's load target renegade, and you can see how much clearer the display is and stuff there. I'll pop up the 128K basic actually, and just so you can see a comparison to before and after, because this has now got the JoulesperCoulomb ghosting fix underneath. So we'll switch the music on, and we'll just do keys and start the game. So yeah, bear in mind it's composite, so that's about as good as anyone could expect for composite, really. But it's stereo. You know, I can hear certain sounds coming from the right side and some coming from the left. And if we punch, yeah, the beeper, you know, is matched at volume levels to the speaker there. You know, the normal sound that comes from the ULA, 48K. It's not overbearing like you usually get with a +2 or a +3, I think. It might have been fixed on the +3, I don't know, but I know my grey +2, there was a bit of a mismatch there, even from factory. You know, the beeper was always quite loud compared to 128K music, but it's quite well balanced. So I got 128K basic up, and hopefully you can see the difference. We haven't got the bleeding edges that we had before. I mean, there's a little bit there on this side. Yeah, for composite, that's pretty blooming good. So as you can see, I touched up the silver there. That looks pretty sweet now. The red, I was having a difficult time trying to match the red, actually. I don't know how I did it with my +2. I think I had like a yellow, and I mixed like red, white and yellow to get that colour. I tried just mixing red and white and it just comes out pink, which is obvious really when you think about it. So there was a third colour that I mixed with it to get that red. So I'll order some more acrylic paints, might show that in a future video, but trust me, you can do it, you know, just like I did on the silver here. I mean, it doesn't look perfect, it's still drying a little bit, but once it dries, you know, it's you know, it looks pretty good actually. And from the front here, you can see, it looks pretty straight there, and you can just about see the nice gold-plated connectors there. I'll show you around the back, hang on. So yeah, looking around the back now, that's I think that's 1,000 times better. I'm sure somebody out there could do a better job, but you know, and the spacing, you know, could be a bit better. Maybe I could have moved these more to the left to give a bigger space between the 3.5 and the red one there. But there's room here for a switch. I will stick a switch on later off camera. There's no point in me showing that. There's nothing else to it really other than just drilling into the hole, same size as that one, for a single toggle switch to toggle between the different stereo modes there. You know, and you can see I shaved off all the edges and things here to make it kind of look deliberate rather than the accidental situation it was before. But actually, you know, I think you'll agree that doesn't look bad actually. You know, the edge here could be a little bit better. It's not too bad. It's about as straight as I can get actually with my dodgy DIY skills. So I mean, you know, aside from the fact that we had this, you know, this scary thing to do with here, and there's a little scratch there, it's pretty blooming good actually. I think, yeah, it's excellent. So there we go, all labelled up. Hopefully you found that interesting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.